I wish we could put through this great
killed
persona
Onog.
conversation.
I'm sorry.
Onog's coughing into the mic.
I think he's so disgusted.
A little.
Hello, traveler. Welcome to the Copper Fox Inn. Take a seat. Order something. Join us as we review Homebrew for Dungeons & Dragons. I'm Thomas, the Human Bard.
I'm Mercy, the Tiefling Wizard.
I'm Onog, the half-orc barbarian.
And I'm Bean, the Rock Gnome Rogue.
And we wanted to start today by introducing us as a group. We all more or less got into D&D with 5th edition during this recent tabletop renaissance. Overall, we love the strange, the weird, the story elements of the game far more than the gritty simulation elements. But we appreciate that those have a time and place of their own. We're here for the love of the game, not to be a perfect reference guide.
Yeah, and we also just want to take a moment to thank the community, the D&D homebrew community specifically, for all of their incredible creativity. They add so much to the game. They make it such a richer and more fun experience. And as Thomas said, we love the goofy side of D&D. We love incorporating ridiculous, silly rules and classes and items into our game. So we never want it to come across that we are in any way trying to mock or disparage any of the homebrew that we review on this channel. We love everything that we review, and we may laugh with it, but we're never laughing at these creators. And we just want to thank everyone who contributes to that community.
Definitely. Thanks so much. Well, let's get started with our magic item of the week.
All right.
Da-da-da-da. That's our little intro music we're going to put in there.
Oh, nice.
We're not. That's it.
Oh,
Just
okay.
me saying da-da-da-da.
Just you going da-da-da-da.
That's it.
Okay.
Beans brought it.
Yes. Give me a second to pull it up.
No.
Okay. Well, luckily it's here. So this is from D&D Beyond. I highly recommend checking out D&D Beyond because they have a whole section for homebrew stuff of all different kinds.
And they don't sponsor this podcast, but we wish they did.
We would love them.
Hey, D&D Beyond, call us.
If you're
Yeah.
looking for some sponsors.
Mr. Joe D&D Beyond, call us sometime.
We're never going to have the ads that Sam Riegel can make a la Critical Role, but, you know, we can say the name. Anyway, from D&D Beyond, this is from user Ganger31. I don't know, but the A is it's G4NGR31. I don't know how they want me to pronounce that.
Jafornger through one.
Yep, that's it.
Oh,
That's how it's pronounced.
Oh, got it. It's in
I
Celestial.
thought we weren't making fun of people.
I'm not.
Because if we are, I need to shift tactics very quickly.
No, we're not making fun of them. We're
don't-
making fun with them.
I don't have to make fun of this user.
We're making fun of Bean's inability to pronounce their name.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's what we're doing.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Come on, Bean, pull it together.
Anyway, this is the Cloak of the Rat.
Of the rat.
Of the Rat. Of course, I like sneaky stuff, and this is a wondrous item, very rare. It requires attunement. Basically, the main thing that this cloak gives you is the same effect of being under the freedom of movement spell all the time.
Okay.
Which is really, really great, and if you don't have like a magic spammer friend that's willing to give that to you all the time, this can kind of help give you that. Basically, what the freedom of movement spell generally gives you is that your movement is unaffected by difficult terrain, and spells and other magical effects cannot reduce your speed or cause you to be paralyzed or restrained. Correct me if I'm wrong, Onog, but that would mean that like someone couldn't put hold person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
so you can also spend 5 feet of movement to automatically escape from non-magical restraints such as manacles or being tied up or anything like that. And then being underwater imposes no penalties on your movements or attacks. That is something that is just always present with the freedom of movement spell.
It's sort of the Houdini spell.
Yeah, a little bit the Houdini spell. And then I can't remember off the top of my head if this is the same as freedom of movement, but you always have advantage on stealth checks specifically.
Okay.
No, that's not.
No, so
Yeah.
that's just part
That's
of
So it just
something
makes
unique
you
to the
extra
item.
stealthy. One thing I like about this is that in addition to those effects, while wearing the cloak in an area of dim light or darkness, you can use your action to cast Polymorph on yourself, transforming into a rat. So, while you're in the form of a rat, you retain your intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores. The cloak can't be used this way again until the next dawn. So basically, once a day, you can, if you're in the shadows, transform yourself into a rat.
Okay.
I like
Very
this
cool.
because it basically makes you either like a rat or literally a rat. And that's just kind of fun to be able to have that skittery kind of idea. For a bit, I thought this was maybe kind of overpowered for a very rare item. But this is just something that the freedom of movement spell does anyways. So I like this because as a rogue or a monk or someone sneaky, that might be something you would want. But having to spam that spell on yourself like all the time would be really annoying. But
Yeah.
this cloak just allows you to have that. And
Got
you
it
can turn
constantly.
into a rat.
It's fun, jump into a rat.
That's very cool. I
Let
Yeah.
me
like
pull
it.
out the old Xanathar's Guide to Everything. This reminds me of, isn't there a magic item somewhat similar to this in Xanathar's Guide?
I'm sure Xanathar's has
I
something
feel like
where it's
there
just like
may
a
be.
cloak that's
I know in the Dungeon Master's Guide there's this especially that first ability, you have advantage on stealth checks, is very similar, not exactly, but very similar to Cloak of Elvenkind.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems to be just kind of a Cloak of Elvenkind with a ring of freedom of movement glued together, and then also you can polymorph into a rat. It seems, and those all seem to be relatively common items.
Mhm.
See,
Yeah.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying
what
is
rarity is Cloak of Elvenkind? Is
Cloak
it-
of Elvenkind is uncommon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
It
this
is-
is very rare and wondrous.
Yeah,
Which
so
I
it-
think
I
might
think
be a
that's-
bit of an overrating.
it almost might be. And see, that's what I'm trying to figure out is
I think the fact that it can do so many things
That's
is what
true.
makes it
It's
Yeah.
sort of
rare.
Swiss Army.
it's just sort of
Yeah.
a lot of minor-ish things all put together. And
Staple
so
a bunch of effects.
yeah,
together,
that's why I think it being very rare and wondrous is a cool thing.
Does it require attunement?
It does require attunement.
Yeah.
See, that's that makes it really good then that it does all those things in one because you only have so many attunement slots.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that
that's
actually
fair.
is pretty good.
The item it reminded me of was the Hat of Vermin, which is a
Oh.
common
Yeah,
item
there we
in
go.
the Xanathar's Guide. It's wondrous, but it's common. It says this hat has 3 charges. While holding the hat, you can use an action to expend one of its charges and speak a command word that summons your choice of a bat, a frog, or a rat. The summoned creature magically appears in the hat and tries to get away from you as quickly as possible. The creature is neither friendly nor hostile and is not under your control. It behaves as an ordinary creature of its kind and disappears after 1 hour or when it drops to 0 hit points. The hat regains all expended charges daily at dawn. So it just reminded me of it because it was related to rats, but really the hat in Xanathar's Guide is pulling a rabbit out of a hat. Trick.
Basically.
That's the joke, is that you pull a rat out of your hat. But it's not
A
useful in any way.
I don't know what you're talking about because if you release a bat in a place, everyone panics.
That is true.
Like, if you're like, I need
If
to
it's
get
like
out
a
of
fancy
here,
place.
I'll just
Everyone
like
needs to
get a-
immediately make wisdom saving throws to not be freaked out by a bat.
I used to work at a pizza place, a pretty nice pizza place, and we had a bat that was sort of living in the restaurant for about 3 days, and apparently it would just stay up in the ceiling and it wasn't bothering anyone, so we were just hoping it would fly out one day. But one day it did fly down and it was literally terrifying customers. I don't know why, but everyone stood up on their chairs in like getting themselves closer to the bat, which was really dumb. But that's just everyone's instinct. And it flew around and it disrupted every single thing in the restaurant. No one was eating their food. No one was doing anything. People were throwing their hats at the bat, trying to get it out. And for about half an hour, everything was halted. So I think the Hat of Vermin would be very useful, but that's not what we're talking about.
Mhm.
We are talking about the Cloak of the Rat. And I just really like this item because of the variety of kinds of things that it gives to you. It just gives you the ability to, you're not as easy to catch, you're not as easy to be found, even if you jump underwater, like, it doesn't make you a better swimmer or anything, it just means that you're like, not the sluggish dreamscape moving style
Mhm.
that underwater gives you. That
I
was a
like the idea
weird way of
here.
saying that.
we all know that dreamscape style.
Dreamscape style of moving.
I like the idea. Your character, you're in a city campaign. Your
Mhm.
character becomes a were-rat from one of the many were-rats in cities. And then you get the Cloak of the Rat. Now you can turn into a giant rat, a regular rat, a human-rat hybrid,
Yes.
or a regular human. You've got many options available
And then
for your
even when you're not
ratness.
in those forms, you still are kind of rat-like
Yes.
in your ability to
Sort
move
of
around
Peter Pettigrew style.
all the time. Yes.
Yes.
I really like this item just because, kind of like you were saying, like all of the flavor kind of works. Because like outside of the concept of a rat, these don't really seem to go that well together. It's just, oh, you get stealth checks and freedom of movement, and you can turn into a rat. But when you were describing it, I just imagined this if you've ever tried to deverminize your own house, rats can be pretty squirrely little creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very hard
Are
to
they
get a
rats
hold
or
of.
are they squirrels?
All right,
Oh,
come
no.
on now.
You have to make a choice.
Come on now. And just you describing what this gives you gave me the image of someone desperately clawing their way out to escape, and it's this item in and of itself just eschews those images and that idea, and that's a very good place to start, especially with a magical item.
Quick question. Flavor-wise, what would you have this cape look like?
Yeah, because it doesn't talk
all-
about what it
Yeah,
looks like.
so let's all talk about what would you have it look like?
I would have it, be kind of generally gray, like grayish brown, and almost not quite a burlap, but
a coarse, like rough,
a very coarse,
scraggly fabric.
rough, scraggly fabric.
Interesting. Okay.
So that it doesn't necessarily call attention to yourself, and if you were in the shadows, it might kind of disguise you. Oh, what's it called? Like camel's hair? That kind of, like, maybe a little bit thinner than that, sort of like a gray wool-ish
Interesting.
kind of cloak.
Yeah. Oh, no, what do you?
I kind of imagine a similar thing. Like a brown, like earthen tone kind of a thing. But then the edges are all tattered with like what look like little rat bites.
I was
that.
about to
and like little nicks and cuts.
I was about to interrupt you and say that it always has like rat bites and holes in it, and if you were to sew one up, another one would appear. You can't make it look
You
nice.
can't fix it.
That would be a drawback of this, is you couldn't be like a fancy person and wear it, because everyone would be like, why are you wearing this ugly cloak?
Mercy, what would you have it look like?
Well, my immediate thought is in the first Vermintide game, Carillion had that gray fur
Shawl.
short cape going on, and it always, if you saw Carillion on like the edge of your view, you would always mistake her for one of the rats that you're trying to kill.
Yes.
So that's just exactly what I think it would look like. It's just Carillion's
almost like
cape.
a big hump, like fluff on your shoulders.
Yeah.
I think what I would have it look like is a dark, almost fur or fur-like material, but it would have a hood. The hood would have little rat ears.
Oh.
And then the tie around the neck
Would
would
look
be
like a
tail.
Yeah.
But it would be like a living tail. Like it would be gross.
Ooh.
Like it would wiggle sometimes.
like
if
a
you,
dead Khajiit tail.
If you Skyrim glitches.
Ugh.
If you undo the rat tail, it will just wiggle a little bit.
Ooh.
here
So
and
not
there.
like crazy active.
No,
just a little.
No. But as if almost the cloak itself is a rat. And that way, when you pull the hood up, you've got these rat ears on top, and you're covered in this gray fur. And as you pull it around you sort of just shrink into the rat shape.
That's how the polymorph happens.
Yeah,
That's really cool idea.
That's what I would do.
I
That's
like
very
how
cool.
as we went around, we just got closer and closer to just having it be a rat onesie.
I think it would be a
No.
complete fursuit.
A persona.
Aw.
Yeah, a complete rat.
No.
Although
No, you're just describing Mickey Mouse.
Oh gosh.
it's just a Mickey Mouse cloak with little Mickey Mouse
No.
ears on it.
It's just those. Do you ever have those
we're gonna get
towels?
content ID'd by
I
Disney
know.
now. We said the mouse.
Oh, it's
The
just,
mouse heard.
the
it's
mouse
just-
will hear
He
us.
knows we're here.
it's just Michael the house squirrel.
Michael the house squirrel. I am legally distinct from all other humanoid mice you might know.
Rodents with pants, that's silly. I only wear a shirt.
His girlfriend miniature
No, he wears
the house.
gloves.
Mini.
know,
Are
he
you
only-
under the impression
only
that
has-
mini is short for miniature?
He wears
is now.
flip flops and a shirt and nothing else.
That's
that's
a Hawaiian bun. Though.
yeah, nice.
Yes, perfect. I love that. Yeah. God. Okay. Well,
That
thank
derailed.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bean, for bringing our magic item of the week here. Thank you, Bean, for bringing the magic item of the week. I can't get through that sentence without fumbling
Oh,
it.
well, then we're not taking
One
it out,
more
so-
try. One more. Thank you, Bean, for bringing our magic item of the week.
Oh, you're
Let's
welcome,
move
Thomas.
on. Let's
You
move
said that
on
so
to-
well.
I know. It's like I'd practiced.
On the first try.
Let's move on to what Onak has brought us next.
Okay, so I would like to preface this with basically from everything, all the conversation I've seen about this homebrew that I am bringing forward, it has been intentionally designed to be the most overpowered thing possible.
Just ridiculously.
Just
over the top.
it is it is not meant to be taken too seriously altogether.
Noticing a pattern in the things you bring to the table here.
I have a flavor palette I enjoy.
Sorry, guys. I'm still.
It's got good mouthfeel.
It
I'm
can
still
be
laughing at
found.
Michael the house.
Basically, it's I'm pulling this particular racial class from a file I found on Dungeon Masters Guild called Racial Classes for 5th Edition. And
Do you know who the author is?
the author of it here is, it says all original material is copyright by Casey Bunsmith. It's down at the very bottom of the PDF.
Yeah, so check out Casey Bunsmith on Dungeon Masters Guild.
Oh no, this is a lot of pages.
This is a lot of pages.
We're only
but
going to be looking at one.
We're
section.
starting at page 13, I think.
Yeah.
So,
Oh.
like I have said, this is intentionally designed to be broken and not for your average campaign. So, do you think being a werewolf is not overpowered enough? Well, have I got the lycanthropy for you, the Were-Tarrasque.
Where Tarask, you say?
One of the biggest and most powerful creatures in all of the game, and you can join their ranks.
No.
And in fact, become even bigger than the stat block in the monster manual.
Everyone knows if you're bit by a Tarrasque, you can easily recover from that.
You can easily
Yeah.
recover from that, and your progeny will have this horrible disease.
Is
I
that...
just gotta ask, are we implying that the size of a Tarrasque's jaws is such that it could just give you a little bite and not just eat
How
you?
does it transmit the Where Taraskism?
Interestingly enough, we may eventually get to discussing what
Okay,
happens when a
okay.
Were-Tarrasque bites someone.
Okay, let's start then.
So, first of all, this is both a race and a class. So the creator has provided both a starting race, and then this is also the class to follow down. So let's start with the race, the Were-Tarrasque. Your ability scores increase, your strength and constitution are increased by 4 each. However, your intelligence and wisdom are both reduced by 2.
Ooh.
So there is a bit more of a give and take with this, but giving a +4 to
It's
anything...
not very cash money of you.
oh no, it is exceedingly cash money. Because giving first of all, even if you just do the math, it's still +4 to your stats anyways.
Yeah.
Which is relatively unheard of. The most I think we've ever seen is +3.
Yeah.
And so that's you're going to be a strong, chonky boy, and
We couldn't just leave that one hanging there. A strong, chonky boy.
How do you spell chunky?
Yeah, spell chonky for us. So I can make sure-
CHONKY. Chonky.
No E?
No.
I hate that.
CHONKEY?
No, chonky.
Okay.
This is
All right,
the Scottish
so,
spelling of
All right,
it.
all right. Let's continue on. So your size in their normal form, Were-Tarrasque appear mainly human, but are abnormally big. Your size is large.
Which is
So,
already, players should not be large.
already it's kind of a design rule in 5th edition that players should not be large, because already that in and of itself, or at least players should not be normally large.
Yeah.
Players can
Mhm.
become
They can
large
become
through
large.
magic and things like this.
But generally, they just stay away from making large player races.
Yeah, this was a big problem when they were designing the Minotaur and Centaur race for
Mm.
the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica.
If you're unfamiliar with why that's the case, you can look at Mike Merles has done a stream on this where he designed some races and he talked about it. Generally, it has to do with a lot of player class abilities often reference like things that are within range for you, and a large creature has more things that are in range for them.
Yeah.
And so those have not been balanced for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're just gonna see how many higher quality content creators we can direct you to over the course of each of our
Name drop.
episodes.
Yep, correct.
Yeah.
My
Alright.
goal is that everyone stops listening and starts listening to other better podcasts.
Yes,
Yeah, exactly.
we are the gateway.
I was gonna
podcast.
say that.
We're a gateway.
So
podcast.
we
Keep
have
your
already
kids away from us.
So we've already gone through 2 of the base raw abilities of the race, and it is already much stronger than anything else
Yep.
that we have found. Next step, your base walking speed is 40 feet. So not only are they bigger,
Plus
stronger, they are
10.
also faster.
Dang.
You get dark vision out to a range of 120 feet. I'm not entirely sure why.
Oh my
Far.
gosh.
You speak Common and Sylvan,
Well, you
which
get
is nice.
expertise in perception.
You have expertise in the perception skill.
What?
Now that's going to be important later. I think this is going to be one of like the main critiques I have just in the formatting of this.
Yeah.
But for instance, one of the class proficiencies later is perception. which doesn't make a lot of sense because you already are super perceptive.
Mm.
So that's gonna be relatively unused, but whatever. That's just me nitpicking.
Whoever wrote this just really likes eyeballs.
They just are very into looking at stuff.
Or
So-
hearing stuff.
I guess.
Perception can be
I
any
hope
sense.
I hope this doesn't take too long, but I want to break
No.
down each
Take too
paragraph.
long.
Basically,
We need to be here for at least an hour, if not longer.
So, first thing, we get to the class features. So the Were-Tarask gains the following racial class features. The Were-Tarask gains the following racial class features.
Oh, got it first try. Definitely didn't do it again.
Your hit dice is 1d20 per Were-Tarask racial
Oh
level.
My.
What?
Your starting
Gosh.
hit points are 20 plus your Constitution modifier. So already, with the plus to Constitution and the starting health of 20, even if you tried to put a negative modifier in this, you would have more health than most barbarians 3 levels above you.
Nice.
So, and then at every level you gain 1d20, or an average of apparently 16. I don't know where that math comes out.
Huh.
Plus your Constitution modifier.
Instead of picking to roll a 1d20, I'll take my average of 16.
I'll take my average of
Yeah.
16.
Thank you.
Which is it
Just-
does work.
Just because there's not a D32, they had to put something on there.
There's not a D32.
1d32 or 16.
Yeah. So, your proficiencies, light armor, shields, not that you'll be using them, simple weapons and martial weapons, not that you'll be using them. Saving throws, strength and constitution, and you can choose 2 from animal handling, athletics, intimidation, nature, perception, and survival.
Were you gonna say imitation?
No. So, and then it just goes through the normal starting character stuff, but that doesn't matter because when you reach 2nd level, and again at 4th, 6th, 8th, 10th, 12th, 14th, 16th, 18th, 20th, 22nd,
What?
and 24th level,
That's not a level!
Huh?
did I mention that this class goes up to 24 levels?
Okay.
You can increase your strength and constitution by 2.
You're hurting me.
Using this ability, your strength and constitution can increase above 20, but cannot exceed 20 plus your racial level.
Oh, good thing it's not broken.
It's not
There's
broken.
no-
I'm glad
Thank
they
God.
balanced it. Thank you.
As normal, you can't increase an ability score above 20 using this feature,
Except for where
where it explicitly says otherwise.
Well, I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
that is how D&D works, to be fair.
So
Examples always trump generals.
So that's the main draw I would say from this class is that you basically just get a bazillion strength and constitution and cannot die ever. I don't think
So it's like
anything could kill
a
you.
good wizard class.
It's a real good
How would this do up against a Tarask? Like just
An actual-
a plain
It's
Or-
funny
or
you should
a
ask.
Tarask.
We'll get to that in a little
Okay,
bit.
good.
Okay.
So next class feature is damage resistance at 1st level, then again at 5th, 7th, 9th, 11th, 15th, 17th, 19th, 21st, and 23rd, you may choose to gain resistance to one of the following damage types.
No.
Fire, poison, bludgeoning, piercing from non-magical weapons, or slashing from non-magical weapons. Alternatively, starting at level 11, you can instead choose to gain immunity to any one of the following, which you have already chosen resistance.
It's like expertise, you know.
Yeah, it's,
That's a pretty normal
It's just
thing.
like a normal
We all
rogue.
Very
So you
normal.
can just be,
gaining
oh,
immunity.
I'm immune to all bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing damage from non-magical weapons. That's not all. Not only are you now the biggest, strongest, and healthiest thing that has ever existed in D&D, beginning at 3rd level, on your turn, you can shift as a bonus action. Shifting lasts for 1 minute, or until you end on your turn as a bonus action. Initially, you can shift between a humanoid form.
Ooh, a humanoid form.
All right.
That'll hold him all white.
Chonky boy.
Chunky Chungus. Where?
Extra chungus.
Oh, sorry guys, I forgot. I should need to change. I was gonna do the Where Chungus race.
No.
Also, feel free
Please.
to buy our Chunky Boy t-shirts on Patreon.
The highest level is that we just send you a voicemail that says "Chunky Boy" over and over again.
Chunky Boy, Chunky Boy.
All right.
Chunky Boy, Chunky Boy.
We're going to be here all
No,
day.
let's start again.
Okay, so initially you can only shift between a humanoid form.
It's okay. Go ahead. Shh,
All right,
shh.
all right.
Go again.
Initially, you can only shift between a humanoid form and a hybrid form.
Great.
Thank you,
Love it.
Mercy. Beginning at 13th level, you are able to assume a fully beast form. So while shifting into hybrid form, you gain temporary hit points. So it's not enough that you have more hit points than God himself, but you gain temporary hit points equal to your level plus your constitution bonus. While shifting into full beast mode, you gain temporary hit points.
Beast form.
Not if I shift into maximum overdrive.
That's basically what it is.
I love this
So you
much.
gain temporary hit points equal to your level plus twice your constitution modifier. So, and then it gives you shifting features that you gain claws and horns while in these different forms.
You sort of become like a death claw from
You
Fallout.
basically
So like a humanoid
at a certain point,
lizard monster.
you become a death claw.
but not necessarily full size, but you can get up to that.
And then it has a little chart here that kind of showcases the damage that these weapons will do. In addition, while in beast form, you can attack with a bite attack, which also deals half the listed damage. But on a hit, forces the opponent to make a strength save or be grappled. So it's basically you can chomp down on someone and then they can't get away. So so at third level, you can hybrid into a large creature that does 1d8. At 9th, you get a huge creature that does 1d10. At 16th is when you can start shifting into full beast form. Actually, it says 13th, so that might be another typo. But you can go into a huge hybrid form or a gargantuan full Tarrasque beast form. And then at 21st level, you can go into hybrid huge or a colossal
which is
beast form, which I believe is larger than a Tarrasque.
Check. Yes.
I think
they are gargantuan.
Yeah.
Tarrasques are gargantuan.
I don't think colossal is actually even a size delineation in the monster manual. I think it only goes up to gargantuan.
How do you become a were-Tarrasque?
I was about to clarify. I mean, is this by being bitten by a Tarrasque or by the god of the Tarrasques?
You'll never know. It doesn't go into it. Most of this block talks about most were-Tarrasques are just born with it. Like, you don't get it by
Maybe
being
they're
bitten
born
by a
with it.
I was gonna
Tarrasque.
say maybe it's Maybelline. Maybe she's a were-Tarrasque.
Maybe she's
Yeah.
a were-Tarrasque.
Maybe she's a were-Tarrasque.
Maybe her eyebrows on fleek because she's in full beast mode.
All right. So, guys,
Yeah.
you would think that
That's
those are
enough.
those are
right?
pretty
There
good.
we go.
Like
That's
up
a
to level
class.
3
We can all
abilities,
go
because
home
then
now.
we've already talked about more stuff. Oh wait, there's more. Beginning at 3rd level, when you shift into your hybrid form, you gain blind sight up to a distance of 30 feet.
So it doesn't matter if you're blinded or in darkness.
It doesn't matter if you're in darkness. Even if you have your extra dark vision, it goes out to 30 feet. You gain blind sight. This increases to 60 feet at 9th level and 90 feet at 17th level, and finally to 120 feet at 23rd level.
Okay.
But guys, don't worry. This is definitely a martial class, and like most martial classes, you get extra attack at 5th level.
Oh, no.
You may attack twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action on your turn. The number of attacks increases to 3 when you reach 11th level and to 4 when you reach 20th level.
4 attacks.
You get 4 attacks.
Well, don't worry. They'll only have that from 20th to 24th.
Oh, good.
So it's
that's
just
fine.
4 levels.
That's okay.
Magical resistance. At 8th level, you just gain advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. Just, you are being infused with the power of your Tarrasque ancestors. You also get legendary resistance at 10th level. If you fail a saving throw, you can choose to succeed instead. At 15th level, you can use this ability twice, and at 20th, you can do this 3 times. So then you get a tail swipe attack, which is just kind of an area of effect. A reflective carapace. While in hybrid or beast forms, anytime you are targeted by magic missile, which I feel like this is the capstone ability.
Yeah.
This is at 24th ability, so I don't know who's hitting you with magic missile at level 24.
Oh no.
But
You're out of all spell slots.
they are out of juice
It's
at this
been
point.
a long day. You're like,
But it also talks about magic missile, a line spell, or a spell that requires a ranged attack roll. Roll a d6. On a 1 to 5, you are unaffected.
well, that's the opposite of what it should.
On a 6, you are unaffected, and the effect is reflected back to the caster, as though it originated from you, turning the cast to the target.
Oh,
Why
I thought it
doesn't
meant-
this just say you are unaffected by these? Roll a d6. On a 6, it reflects back. Why does it say on a 1 to 5 you are unaffected? On
Hey,
a 6, you're also unaffected, but it's still.
To
That's
be
like
fair, this
betrayal
is
writing.
this whole PDF series seems like a this is like the rough draft they had.
Okay.
Because a lot of
okay.
the races that appear elsewhere in here, like
Mhm.
not Genesi, but Ifrits and stuff like that,
Yeah.
also appear in another PDF where they kind of flesh them out a bit more.
Okay, so these are more of just them throwing these ideas out.
Yeah, this is kind of like, what if you were aware Tarrasque? But it's still ridiculous.
Not gonna lie, I thought the reflective carapace meant that like it was like mirrors in an attempt to like blend into its surroundings.
Oh no! Yeah,
Like
at,
a
at
cloaking-
20 at 29th level, you
Very
can become
stealthy.
invisible.
Sweetie,
at will.
sweetie, I don't think you can roll a stealth check when you are colossal.
That's what I thought they were trying to give
Just
a
like,
colossal creature.
give a reason why they can blend
You're
in.
a continent away, and you step, and you're like, "Yeah, make a stealth check on people from the other continent, just to see if they noticed the minor tremor you caused."
Just in case. No, but it's okay because you're covered in mirrors, so no one can see. I was about to say
Or
that that's
everyone
BS.
is blinded, and it's a wonderful disco we just joined.
Oh man.
So,
It's not one mirror; it's a million different
Yeah.
refracting
that's what
light
I thought.
shows.
I thought it was like your scales are like
Yeah.
mirrors.
so they also gain the frightful presence ability, which, from what I can see, seems to be the normal monster manual frightful presence.
Yeah. And so
Then the last ability listed here is while in beast mode, you can make one bite.
You're doing this on purpose. I know it.
While in beast mode, you can make one bite attack against a large or smaller creature you are grappling. So you have to have already bitten them to grapple them. And then if you make another one and the attack hits, the target takes the bite damage and the target is swallowed. The creature is blinded and
What a
restrained.
good gas!
I love
What
it.
a perfect reaction.
It has total cover against attacks and other effects outside of you, and takes 16d6 acid damage at the start of each of your turns. If you take 60 damage or more in a single turn from the creature inside of you, then you must succeed on a DC 20 Constitution saving throw, and at the end of that turn, regurgitate all swallowed creatures which fall prone in a space 10 feet of you. If you die, a swallowed creature is no longer restrained by you and can escape from your corpse by using 30 feet of movement exiting prone. Yes.
That made me so happy because I realized that the Sarlacc pit is just a were-Tarrasque that's like buried in the sand with its mouth
The
open.
Sarlacc pit from Star
Yeah,
Wars.
exactly. And it's just swallowing boys and then,
Well, there are-
regurgitating Boba Fett.
There are other creatures that have swallow attacks in the monster manual. I think a purple worm can swallow you.
Purple worms, giant frogs, things
Yeah.
like that.
A couple of them.
I mean, anything with a big enough mouth.
Anything with a big amount. I
always
think
just
dragons
remember,
can do it too, technically. I don't know.
Maybe. I always remember Guardians of the Galaxy 2, where Drax the Destroyer says, "I'll go in and kill it from the inside. its armor will be weaker from there." And they just go, "No, it's the same thickness no matter what side you're on. it doesn't matter."
I don't know, man. If I bite my tongue, it really hurts real bad.
It worked when Hercules did it.
Exactly. So of course it's law.
Yeah.
We have to follow.
If it's in
Mhm.
Hercules, it's law.
That's true.
How dare you?
So,
Yeah, this is overall very fun.
yeah, and there's an additional ability that isn't in any of the tabs, but if you look at the table that's on the last page,
Mm-hmm.
on the side it has a slot for
armor.
natural armor, which
Oh,
I assume is if you are
no.
unarmored,
Oh,
this
gosh.
just adds to your AC. And it gets up to 12.
Okay.
Yeah,
just
not
plus
even,
12.
but not even at the full, like, there's not a capstone of, oh, you get plus 12. Like, you get it at
You get
23rd level.
one below. Yeah.
Mhm. So this is pretty ridiculous, and I just love the audacity of it because like
This racial class spits in the face of God.
Yes.
I think it's fair to say.
It was pretty
'Cause,
ballsy to write this.
like I sort of joked about before, some DMs I've heard talk about where they inadvertently made someone a werewolf or a werebear or a were something,
And they
and
didn't
it just
account for.
and they didn't account for it, and it's quote unquote ruined their campaign
Yeah.
because one of their players is just abusing their immunity to damages and stuff like that. But then there's just this thing. There's
Yes.
the were-Tarrasque. Just you can just is that wizard over there bothering you? Just swallow the bot. just eat him. Just chomp him up.
I mean, I'm a lycanthrope in one of the campaigns we're playing. I tried to make myself IRL in the campaign, and I was like, I'm not going to have any
And
magic.
to make a very unmagical
Yeah,
person.
unmagical person, so that I literally get to play as me. And like second session, I was bit by a werewolf and failed and became a werewolf. And I have to say, it's been awesome just alone having my strength score go up
Uh-huh.
and having resistance to all non-magical weapons
Yeah.
is just like the best.
Feels good,
It's
man.
it's the best. This is the single most powerful character I've ever played, and I'm just a really, really low level werewolf.
Mhm.
Like,
And you weren't even a werebear.
No.
Like, you weren't even
I'm-
the full potential
No,
of
no, no.
lycanthropy. Lycanthropy? Whatever.
Lycanthropy.
Lycanthropy.
because you can.
Lycanthropy.
Are you a
Yeah.
lycanthropy
Or
or a
lycanthropy.
lycanthropy?
Yes.
Go home.
In Dungeons and Dragons, can you be both a werewolf and a vampire at the same time?
Yes, I believe you can.
Because vampirism is a state of being, whereas
It's not so
lycanthropy
much
is
of a
curse.
disease.
I think I saw a sage advice talking about someone had asked, "How do I get cured of vampirism in D&D?" And they said, "That's not a thing. You can't become not of it. You are a vampire now. You don't have vampirism. You are one."
There are ways it talks about, because I looked into this as well because I was preparing to do a Curse of Strahd campaign, and I was like, there's all these vampires going around. Someone's going to get turned into a vampire at some point, or want to get rid of it. And basically there are two ways to get rid of vampirism as far as I have seen in the rules. One of them is the wish spell, to say, I wish I was not a vampire.
Fair enough, that's fair.
The other way is to kill said vampire and resurrect their corpse. They will, if it's a true resurrection or something like that, they will be resurrected without the curse of vampirism.
Well, I do like to think of true resurrection as just factory reset.
Yeah, but that's basically
have you
what
tried
it is.
holding the button for
the
10
only
seconds?
The only way to get rid of the vampirism is to reset the system.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
So you could be, I'm just trying to lead into this, you could be a vampire were-Tarrasque.
Well, see, that's the thing, is that would require a vampire be capable of killing you at all.
No, I'm saying you start a vampire.
Oh.
And you become a were-Tarrasque in
Oh,
addition
well.
to your vampirism.
I don't know about that, because yeah, like I said, this seems to be designed from a standpoint of you are born a were-Tarrasque.
Fair enough.
Because like we have discussed, it's hard to escape only mildly scathed from a Tarrasque attack in general.
That's
especially if after only 2 bites he's just got you inside and you basically can't get out unless you can teleport.
Well, and it would be really stupid if a were-Tarrasque clawed, a regular Tarrasque. If a regular Tarrasque clawed you, and then you became a creature bigger than a Tarrasque able to defeat it.
How
That
would
would,
that even happen?
yeah, like the Tarrasque would be like, well, the worst part about being a Tarrasque is if you injure someone and you don't kill them coming back as a colossal creature and killing you. Ugh, that's so annoying.
Tarrasque's all out for coffee, just like, I hate you, always gotta hunt them down and kill them, or else they're gonna become an even bigger Tarrasque.
on the Reddit link, on the Reddit thing that I found this link from, someone was talking about they were trying to make the most ridiculous thing possible, and some of the comments were talking about how one of their players' goals when they became a were-Tarrasque was to become the colossal Tarrasque and then swallow the normal Tarrasque, and just to complete that circle.
Yes. What a way to go out.
Now,
I exit this world as I entered it.
My question is, if you are fighting a were-Tarrasque and it scratches you and you get away and you survive, do you become a Tarrasque were?
Oh no.
Where you're like a Tarrasque normally, but you can turn into a human.
Were-Tarrasque. Oh, you can turn
No,
into a
Tarrasque.
colossal human.
No, because
You
That's
get
what I'm
plus
saying.
5 to your anxiety
Yes.
stat.
Well, but like a werewolf is like a person that becomes a wolf, but like a jackal were is a jackal that can become a person. So if you I posit that if you get scratched by a were-Tarrasque and you survive, you become a Tarrasque were, which is a Tarrasque that can turn into a giant human.
I think what I'm getting from this is that it's just like a reverse Russian nesting doll situation where Tarrasque scratches you, now you're a colossal were-Tarrasque. Colossal were-Tarrasque scratches you. Now we gotta make up another even bigger.
be
That's
bigger.
what I'm saying.
version.
Titanic.
Yeah, you're a Titanic. A universal Tarrasque.
Then you become the Tarrasque in which the world sits upon as you
Yes.
float
Exactly.
through space.
Yes, you
It's-
become the great Atuin on which the world is
It's
built.
just Tarrasques all the way down.
The world's Tarrasque all the way down. What a great way to end that. Thank you so much, Onak, for bringing that to us. I love that. It's very- I'll never use this in anything I ever do.
No.
But it's fantastic.
It will never
Like,
be
even just
allowed.
keeping all of the different abilities straight
Mhm.
is a task in and of itself.
I will let someone become an
Is
Old
it a
Spice gentleman class before I allow them to become
Turtask?
were-Tarrasque.
Yeah.
A Turtask.
No.
Okay. All right. I was originally going to bring something different, but I have changed my mind on what I brought this week. We just talked about something really big and overpowered. That's originally something that I had brought, and I'm just going to save that for next week. This week, I've actually brought something a little smaller, less rules-based, and more a concept for how you deal with something that occurs in the game. So this is from Bardic_Tales on Instagram. They do a lot of homebrew. And these are resurrection side effects. There's 20 of them. So you can use it as a D20 table if you choose to.
Okay, cool.
So in the rules as written in D&D, when you're resurrected, there are no real lasting side effects from that. You just are resurrected. You're back to normal, baby. But this posits that it would be interesting to apply certain conditions to creatures that have experienced death and come back, because that experience would change you in some way.
In the spirit of referencing podcasts better than ours, that was a Hello from the Magic Tavern reference.
Oh, I just like to say baby on the ends of things.
It's become a tick of Thomas's.
Yes. So let's roll a D20 real quick. It was 14. So let's see.
I've been telling you, I think that dice is loaded, Thomas.
I think it rolls exactly what I want it to every time, so that's the opposite of loaded. Resurrection side effects. So let's say you died, you were resurrected. On a 14, the character gains the Magic Initiate feat in either Warlock or Cleric, depending on how they were resurrected. Because those are the two
The
classes
magic
that
sort of
offer you resurrection.
It stays in you a little bit.
That
I think now
whoever
too,
has
though,
affected you.
I think now too, this might be older, but I think there's divine sorcerers now as well.
Oh, the
who
divine
can
soul
take
sorcerer.
who can take cleric spells, and
There
I
you
think
go.
there's even a unearthed arcana for divine wizards.
Yeah.
But
But the concept is whatever magic brought you back, that magic stays in you in some small degree. You get this magic initiate feat. So you just, because a cleric brought you back, you suddenly have this connection to clerical magic. Let's roll again. Dunk, 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 a 5. Dogs no longer trust the character.
I
Nice.
love that.
I think that's very interesting. It's just a minor role play change, but it affects a lot of ways that you would think about going forwards. You just approach a fun dog on the street and your
Feels
party
different.
pets it, and the character who had been resurrected comes up and the dog just whimpers and leaves.
Or, I mean, I'm throwing it out there. If you went into someone's house, most people, if their dog doesn't trust someone, a lot of people will really, really listen to their dogs.
People
Definitely.
trust their dog's judgment of
So,
character a
like,
lot.
you might be like, no, I promise I'm, like, a fine
Mhm.
person, but if that could actually be a really big, like, problem for you to deal with is every time you go to talk to someone, if they have a dog, like, you're outside and you hear a dog bark inside and you have to say to the group, like, oh, I can't go in their house, because then they're not going to trust
Yeah.
our party.
And it's just this lasting impact that I think Resurrection can take away a lot of the sting of death in D&D, where you're just like, whatever, he died, he's back, who cares? But even then, without having any real mechanical differences of saying, and now you have less hit dice or whatever it might be, which really punishes players, a more story-driven way of not necessarily punishing them, but affecting them for the rest of the game, where, oh, since I died, I should not go in there.
Yeah.
Like, because this has changed me in some
Death
in
has
some
taken
way.
a toll on
Yeah.
them.
A good
And I-
DM can make that really interesting.
Definitely.
yeah, and I do like that not all of them seem to be negative effects. Some
No.
of them are positive effects.
Some of them are
like
interesting.
the magic initiate feat.
Yeah, this one over here, the character is now healed by necrotic damage, and healing spells cause harm to them.
Oh.
Which is on a couple of undead. If you deal them necrotic damage, they'll gain hit points equal to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it almost implies that you are partially, in
Undead.
some form, an undead
I mean,
now.
That's
some of these are
cool.
terrible. The character astral projects to the 9 hells when they sleep. They don't just
Yeah.
dream of the
Yeah.
9 hells.
Because
They
the 9
physically
hells
go there.
Because the 9 hells feel cheated out of the soul they were supposed to
Yeah.
get, and so now, as their form of being, their lawful contract, 9 hells devils.
But see, while this may seem like a punishment, at a certain point that can become an advantage because something
You make friends
something
with
goes,
a devil,
yeah,
start going out to
something
drinks.
goes wrong and the party needs to go to hell, and you just go, oh, I've been there. We can plane shift there right now,
Dude,
guys.
I go to hell every night. And everyone goes, I know you've been having really hard struggles with your nightmares. You're like, no, I literally go to hell every night.
No, I literally
But that
share
would
a
also-
beverage with Mephistopheles every evening.
Yeah, he likes margaritas.
He's really into margaritas.
No, but I think that's interesting where you might describe that to your character as a DM the first few times as almost a nightmare they're having, where they keep dreaming of this hell they barely escaped by being resurrected, but they start to realize it's not a dream.
Yeah.
And they start to realize they're actually astrally projecting there
Mm-hmm.
when they sleep.
I mean, some of these things would almost be impossible to keep playing the same way. Like, your character's eyes have permanently turned completely black.
Yeah.
NPCs just always feel uneasy. I like this idea that, yeah, you get to come back, but it's something that really can make your character completely different.
Yeah.
You're afraid of fire.
Yeah. These I like that it has this lasting effect on you. You can't just shrug off being dead. You can't count on it. You can't be like, yeah, we'll just throw the barbarian off the cliff and he'll land on them and die, but he'll also kill them, and then we'll just bring him back. It'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me too of an effect.
Not that all barbarians are male. I didn't mean to assume that.
Yeah, some of them are robots.
Yeah.
But it reminds me of an effect spoiler alert for Curse of Strahd, for anybody listening who doesn't want to learn about some cute little tweaks they have in the game for it. In the rules, there's something, because of the way that Barovia works, souls cannot escape the mist as well as the player characters.
Mm-hmm.
So your soul is trapped in Barovia while you are dead. And there's a rule in the game: if you are resurrected but it has been more than a day since you died, you come back with some form of long-term madness from the Dungeon Master's Guide table of madness.
Yeah.
Which are often not this seems to be much more extreme, but also beneficial and negative affecting, while the long-term madness table has more of things like, I only feel normal when I'm drinking. So it's just mild behavioral changes that might change who your character is.
Yeah.
But this reminds me a lot of some of the things on that table.
Yeah. One of my favorite ones on here is number 3. It says, undead creatures are drawn to the character, and in combat they will target them over other party members if possible.
I love that one.
Ooh,
I love that, as they almost inherently know, the undead,
that you should be dead.
Yeah,
smell
they
it.
want you to come back to them
Mhm.
somehow. There's this almost underlying connection all undead have, that they have this connection with death, and they see you almost as one of them that got away, and so they want to pull you back.
I mean, if I were a DM, I would, number 11, I would actually just make a thing, and then it would be in addition to something else on here.
Yeah.
Because it says the character gives off a faint necrotic aura when someone has detect magic up. And that would
Ooh.
actually
Just always. Just a
always.
faint whiff of it.
Yeah, and like very, very slight, because I like that, and that effect manifests as something else on this table, is how I would do it, is that you have this magic that stinks
Yeah.
on you, and it comes out, you know, no longer, you smell like mold, or you can't ever feel, you never are not thirsty. So I would always give it that. I think it could be really interesting. I know that Taliesin Jaffe on Critical Role kind of tried to do this with his character Molly in their second campaign, but it would be cool to start your campaign off as someone that
Has that
has
previously.
been resurrected.
Ooh,
Interesting.
And you have a quality, whether it's from this table or something like that, you talk about it with your DM, and that also gives you and the DM kind of the ability to play with this like past that has been haunting you. Again, that was actually something Taliesin Jaffe really tried to do, but he didn't have anything
like this.
quite like
Sure.
this.
I like it says the character's alignment shifts to chaotic. I'm not a big fan of like a prescriptive alignment saying like, since my alignment's chaotic, I have to act in such ways, yada yada.
Mhm.
But I like it in the sense of, in the D&D cosmology, your alignment defines your afterlife. If you are lawful good, you go to the lawful good afterlife. If you are lawful evil, you go to the lawful evil afterlife. That's like how the afterlife spheres all work. And I like the idea that cheating death disallows you from lawful afterlives.
Yeah.
Because you are breaking the rules.
You might not have to change behaviorally,
Mhm.
but your afterlife location.
Yeah. Because like maybe you
changes.
can't go to the Nine Hells anymore. You now have to go to the Abyss or whatever for chaotic evil, because you broke your contract of how life and death are supposed to work.
Another one that I think could be interesting to add to this table is something to do with your lifespan or aging. So it could be that when you are resurrected, it's almost like you've aged 10 years. Or it could be the opposite, where it's like all this extra life force got put into you, so you're a human, but
You
now
feel
it seems
younger
like
now.
you're aging like an elf. Like maybe
Interesting.
you're gonna live a lot
Mhm.
longer because you're already outside of this normal linear life to death progression. I just think doing something with
about
aging
you
in either direction, you know,
has
you have less
changed,
life
yeah.
or more life in you, could be very interesting.
It kind of reminds me of the campaign we've all done together when the character Mel was killed, and she wasn't just resurrected; she was reincarnated as a drow, as a dark elf.
She'd been a human before.
Yeah, she had been a human character before, and she was reincarnated as a equivalent aged drow. But when she went to talk to her warlock patron, they were confused because she was supposed to be dead a lot sooner than she currently is, and things like that. Because she now lives to be over 700 years old, as opposed to the 70, 100 years that humans normally live. And so it was interesting to see the reaction of otherworldly beings who were expecting people to die at a certain point, but if you get reincarnated as something that lives longer, then it's
You've cheated the system.
you're now on a different scale
Oh
altogether.
crap, I have to deal
I'm
with
just
you living longer.
Picturing the Hercules fates being like, why won't it cut?
Same kind of thing.
Yeah, second Hercules reference in
I
one
know.
podcast.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, I think one thing that was really fun about that is she really was trying to play like an older lady. She was like, I want to be someone old. And then when she got brought back, she was basically a late teens drow.
Yeah, the equivalent of a
like 19-year-old.
a 19-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And it's lovely how ironically that happens.
She was like, I just wanted to be an old lady, but now I'm like a teenager.
Well, and even that is kind of our house rules, because I think in the rules as written, elves age at the same rate as humans. They just get to be young and hot forever, which
Yeah.
I don't like. I like giving
You
it
mean
like
they
a dog
mature
years
at the same
equivalency.
age as humans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this table, not necessarily as one you would have to rigidly stick to, but as a DM, as one you could either pick something from or just use for inspiration, which I think a
Yeah.
lot of good homebrew serves as kind of a jumping off point for your own little homebrews, adding on to it, where you can say, I really like this element of this, or you could say, I've just never thought of it that way. Maybe death should have some kind of interesting lasting consequence, and work it into your campaign from now on without even using this specific table.
Thomas, I would like to point out that the screenshot that this comes from says 4:03 a.m. Are you okay?
I'm great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just like double checking.
Oh.
Let's move on. All right. We'll finish the podcast with
Mhm.
Mercy. Mercy, what have you brought us today?
So I brought a subclass that I'm really excited about. This
I'm also
is
excited.
from.
You told me a little bit about this.
Yeah, I love this. It's from Reddit user. It keeps on burning.
The soul still burns.
Does it-
Exactly.
is it-
That's a
Is
monster.
is that like
Factory
accented in
reference.
such a way that you have to pronounce it like that?
I just sort of feel that. You know, I just.
Oh no, I just saw what this is.
Yep.
Just-
Okay, let's go on.
I love
Introduce
this. So this is the stressed student wizard subclass, and it's fantastic. So I'm just gonna go through each of its abilities.
You yourself recently kind of finishing up your college
I did.
education.
I just graduated from college, and I relate to this, and I also love playing wizards. They're one of my favorite classes, and I would use this subclass. There are some little things that I would probably refine, which the creator of this even acknowledges in the comments below this.
Okay.
But let's just go through it.
Sure.
So I'll read the little flavor text. While many people glorify notorious wizards like Elminster, Mordekainen, or Manchun, they often are not aware of the effort invested into becoming so powerful. This subclass portrays the less glamorous days of being a wizard. For example, all the hours of studying while drinking copious amounts of coffee.
All right.
So, beginning when you select this school at 2nd level, you get the ability Living on a Budget. The gold and time you must spend to copy a spell into your spellbook is reduced to 10 gold and 30 minutes per spell level.
Ooh.
That is one that some people in the comments below this post on Reddit were saying is OP because generally it gets halved for your specific subclass. So if
Yeah.
you're an illusion wizard,
Yes, for
illusion spells are halved, whereas this reduces it by more than half for all of them. Personally, I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Mhm.
That isn't affecting combat.
What I really like is the flavor context that perhaps you had to take out a large loan. And so this is not your own gold, and so every piece of gold matters to you.
Mhm.
But when you take the subclass, you also take out a loan of 2,000 gold with high interest.
That was something that when Thomas and I were discussing this before the podcast, we said would be just a great addition to it, that you have a debt of X
that you
gold,
have to pay.
and any gold your character earns, it's got to go
Goes
towards that
straight to
debt
it.
until you get back up to 0, which, could be never. And it does have interest. So, but yeah, so I don't think that's too broken.
Well, I personally, especially like addressing those concerns, because that does become, it's not that big of a deal. It's just, it's more so because it's time consuming, and the higher a spell level is, the more hours, and sometimes it takes a whole day to learn a new spell if it's like 8th or 9th level, things like that. I would alternatively, I would make it cost cheaper gold if that's what we're going for, but then make it take longer to do, kind of a thing. It's kind of a balancing act. It's like, sure, you can afford to do this, but time wise, you're gonna have to take a few days off to get this done.
I mean, I don't mind the idea. Maybe instead of calling it stress student, it's like honor student or something.
Oh no, we haven't got to the rest of it.
Well,
yet.
yeah,
Don't
but no,
worry.
but I just mean I don't mind the idea, because if what you're saying is this isn't your ordinary wizard, this is someone that is like really, really good at the scholastic part of being a wizard.
So maybe they can copy things down
They
more
can,
quickly.
yeah,
They're good at taking notes.
They're super good at taking notes. They're super good at all this stuff. So
They're not really good at thinking on their feet, but they're really good at regurgitating things they have written down in their notes.
Yes.
We get there.
We'll get there. Yeah, let's move on to the next one though.
So
before we
then
too
you
into it.
get from 2nd level, you get spasms,
Oh no.
which is so good. Every once in a while, your lack of sleep causes you to lose control of your magic. When you cast a spell of 1st level or higher for the first time after a short or long rest, roll an Arcana check with a DC of 8 plus the spell's level. If you fail, roll on the Sorcerer's Wild Magic Surge table.
Ooh.
You cannot willingly choose to fail this check. If you succeed, you will have to make this roll again the next time you cast a spell of 1st level or higher. The DC increases by 1 for every time you have failed until you succeed.
You gonna hit it.
That is acknowledged in the comments. Someone pointed out that last sentence is a bit confusing and kind of cancels out what was just
Not
said.
worded.
And the creator acknowledged that, and that was just a mistake. But the flavor of that is fun. The
I
sleep
love it.
deprivation.
Every time you cast a spell, you might not do anything, but you might accidentally have something go off. And each time it gets progressively more likely.
Well, and if you pair this with living on a budget, then maybe that informs the flavor of living on a budget. So maybe it isn't that they do it so much faster, but they do it through the night. and instead of just regular exhaustion, it manifests in this form of spasms.
Okay.
that's a pretty good way to flavor it. I personally love this because I love wild magic, and I think it is one of the most underused magic kind of things. It makes me sad that only one class has stuff like that where your magic just reacts
Can go wrong.
poorly.
Yeah.
The way I do wild magic as a DM, and Onog, I believe you have tapped into this as well. This may have been your idea. I can't remember.
I think so.
But because I was a wild magic sorcerer first, but we do it because in the book it just says at the DM's discretion. You just sort of roll the wild magic table. We always do it that every time you cast a 1st level spell or higher, you roll a d20, and if it's a 1 or low,
A one
a
or
1
lower.
or lower,
Mm-hmm.
that's still correct. Fight me.
Things can be lower than 1, yes. Not on a
but
dice,
if
but
it's
yes.
if it's a 1, then wild magic goes off. If it's not a 1, that's fine. But then next time it's a 1 or a 2. Then next time it's a 1 through 3.
Okay.
So eventually your chances
You
go up
will
higher
get
and higher.
there, yeah.
So I love seeing this because it's the same kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like eventually you are just gonna hit it.
I do think it's worth noting, too, this ribbon of text there. If you roll a 99 or 100, which is talking about the wild magic table, you instead regain your highest level expended spell slot, which I think is cool.
Do we know-
Because otherwise this is exclusively negative.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know what the wild magic table says for 99 and 100?
I would
Because
have
that
to
may be why
check.
it's different. It
I mean-
might be something that doesn't make sense for a wizard to
I
do.
love wild magic because some of the things on it are like really beneficial.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is summoning a unicorn.
We did that. That was so helpful. The guy accidentally summoned a unicorn and we were able to fight off the sharks, no problem. And we rode on the unicorn's back out of there.
That's not something you get to say every day.
Let's see, 99.
I play in D&D, I get to say that almost every day.
99 to 100 on the wild magic table is you regain all expended sorcery points.
That's why.
So it's
since you're a
equivalent. That's
wizard,
good.
you're
That's
getting
good.
something similar.
And then we have last minute preparations. From 6th level, you can forego rolling for initiative and choose to go last in the initiative order. If you do so, you can replace one of your prepared spells with another one you know.
I love that.
I adore it.
I love that.
One second. Wait.
Give me a minute.
That is so flavorful. I love it.
It's fantastic.
That is the teacher going like, all right, everyone hand in your assignment. And the TA coming down the aisle and you're like scrambling to do your assignment and then you hand it to them.
That in and of itself, I feel like is compelling enough but not broken enough. That could be like a feat. Just
Yeah.
that.
That is a
That could be a
legitimately
wizard
good
feat.
Matt
ability.
Mercer
It's
has a
cool.
feat like that he created.
I love that.
Where you...
Oh, it's in the
Yeah.
Tal'Dorei guide?
Yeah, I think it's in the Tal'Dorei guide that he released where you can basically switch a prepared spell slot that I think you can expend a
I think,
spell
it costs
slot.
you a resource.
It
if I
costs you
remember
something,
correctly.
but you can basically
Whereas
change a
this one-
prepared...
The only cost is just going last in initiative.
Yeah.
Which is
wizards are low dexterity, so they often are going towards the bottom anyway.
I mean, unless I'm playing an assassin or something, I don't usually mind going later in initiative order.
yeah. It's not that big of a
I
deal.
really think that that's actually pretty good, and I think that this subclass overall is actually fairly balanced. The creator said in the comments that it was meant to be sort of jokey and they weren't hyper worried about it all being so balanced, but I would use this.
I think it's fun.
That is my least favorite part about playing wizards is not being able to make an informed choice about what spells you have prepared when you fight a monster that's immune to all of the types of damage that you had prepared for that day. And so I love that ability. I think it's flavorful. I think it's useful. And I don't think that all of the abilities for this subclass are so useful that it's OP.
Yeah, that's fair.
Also, Onog and I made a mistake by wearing jeans, so every time we move, they like squeak against
Oh, yeah, sorry about
the
that.
chairs. Apologize.
Well, I'll never forgive you for this betrayal. Let's move on to the 10th level.
Yeah, so
ability.
then at 10th level, you get Adrenaline Rush. Starting at 10th level, you can actually momentarily focus your mind for one turn. During this turn, you can reduce the casting time of one spell from an action to a bonus action. Once you've used this ability twice, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest.
Ooh, a short rest, though.
So with this, you need to bear in mind, and pull it up here, the rules for casting times. Under bonus action in the player's handbook, it says you can't cast another spell during the same turn, except for a cantrip with a casting time of one action. So if you cast a spell as a bonus action, you have to use your action for something else or for a cantrip spell.
So you can't say like, oh haha, I cast a spell, but then I use my adrenaline rush to cast another spell.
Exactly. It isn't the fighter ability.
You
It's
can-
not.
You could cast. Let me double check here. Oh no, it doesn't matter. Nope, never mind.
So
I
it
lied
isn't.
to you. Because if
How dare
a
you.
wizard has two actions on their turn, they are allowed to use both to cast a spell with a casting time of one action. That's completely fine, as long as they don't also cast a bonus action spell.
Yeah, exactly.
Then it would limit the other spells they could choose. But if they had taken a haste potion or something, they had two actions, they could do two level spells with a casting time of one action. That's perfectly fine.
Mhm.
Yeah, so this isn't a wizard equivalent of multi-attack or something like that.
Yeah.
It is still limited, but it's useful.
Yeah. I mean, you can essentially make a spell into a bonus action and still get a cantrip on top of it.
Or if
which is-
you-
some cantrips are good.
Or if you really need to down a healing potion and don't want to waste your turn, you can down a healing potion as your action and then cast a good spell as a bonus action.
And
Yeah.
there are a lot of sustained damage concentration spells that require your action to maintain,
Mhm.
like Sunburst, Witch Bolt, things like that.
Mhm.
Witch Bolt isn't quite as good. I wouldn't recommend it, but
That's a whole other episode.
that's a whole other
Yeah,
episode.
But maintaining concentration is not casting a spell.
But maintaining,
which is
but
important.
Mhm.
and so yeah, you can cast your Witch Bolt or your Sunburst or whatever the equivalent for a wizard would be, and then while using that as your action, use your bonus action to cast yet another spell. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, like you said, Mercy, taking a potion, picking a lock, untying someone, all of those things would normally be considered actions. And when you're a magical person, sacrificing your, like, one thing that you can do for
Your
a split second
ability.
always feels really, really stupid. But if you have the opportunity to cast a spell and untie
Yeah.
someone,
Yeah.
that is really nice.
And you can do it twice per rest, so pretty
That's a lot.
frequently.
That's a lot.
That
You
kind
are
of stuff might
rarely-
need a little dialing in on exactly how useful it is.
Yeah, you
but-
would very rarely have a combat in which you do not do that.
Yeah, probably.
Because it's also very interesting just how many of these abilities so far we've run into are just sorcerer abilities.
It
That's
sort
a
of
sorcerer.
is a sorcerer.
Because
yeah.
this is one of the meta magics you can pick is quick casting,
Yeah.
where you can cast as a bonus action instead. So it's just very interesting how spasms is basically you have the chaos magic table,
Yeah.
and then adrenaline rush is you have
Quick casting.
quick
Yeah.
casting, which automatically makes this in and of itself overpowered, because that's one of the great arguments online is which is better, sorcerer or wizard.
Right.
And as much as I love sorcerers deep in my heart, the answer is
He's wizard.
unequivocally wizard is the
Yeah.
strongest always, because and the only caveat sorcerers have is the meta magic. So if you go
Start
and
giving wizards meta magic.
so by giving wizards meta magic, you're kind of
Yeah.
you're kind of going above and beyond, I guess,
little
as the
encroaching
stressed
on-
student would agree.
I
Yeah.
mean, I wonder if you made it like a one-time thing, and then, I mean, in my student days, I definitely experienced, like, I'd pull an all-nighter, but then the next day I would have, like, more energy and be more efficient, and it was weird. So I definitely know what this is talking about, but maybe if you made it, you can only do it once per day, and then afterwards you have a level of exhaustion until you
Mm.
take a short rest, because then, like, if you're in the middle of a fight, though, it doesn't happen till, like, the fight is over. But maybe afterwards, because you, like,
I
tapped
mean,
into your...
exhaustion is you can only remove it with a long rest. not a
Well,
short rest.
okay, then maybe that isn't right. But what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, if you had something that,
I think it might be
because you
cool.
used the adrenaline rush, there was a slight negative effect afterwards.
I think it might be cool just say roll on the spasms again. Just like if you're gonna force yourself to have an adrenaline rush, you're gonna deal with the spasms that come with it, and you
Yeah.
maybe you get hit with double spasms on a single spell
Mm-hmm.
because you tried to do too much too fast
Yeah.
and your coffee's
It-
running out.
It takes a toll on your
Uh-huh.
body
Yeah.
And then you just accidentally cast fireball on yourself twice in a row.
Yep.
and die.
Yeah, so then at 14th level, you get Quick Learner. Beginning at 14th level, you can learn new spells by observing others that cast them. If you can see and hear a spell being cast, you can spend your reaction to attempt to memorize how it is cast. Make an Arcana check against a DC of 8 plus the spell's level. On a successful check, it is added to your list of prepared spells until you finish a long rest. Before you finish a long rest, you can spend the time and gold necessary to write the spell into your spellbook. If you attempt to memorize a spell while you already have a spell memorized and you succeed, you will forget the previously memorized spell.
So you only get one at a time.
Yes,
Yeah.
which is great for the flavor of cramming before a test, where you're like, don't say anything to me. I need to hold the knowledge of different shapes of galaxies in my head for the next 20 minutes. Like, I can't have any other information in my brain. So I really like that flavor-wise. I think remembering that after any rest you have to deal with spasms, I think again saying like you do this over a long rest, there's a lot of this flavor of like you're not getting as much out of your rests
You're
as
not getting a
everybody
lot of
else
sleep,
is.
man.
But I think that is incredibly useful. It can be very frustrating as a wizard if you are doing a campaign that's like out in the wilderness. You're not in the big metropolitan city where you can just go to the magic library and look up the spell that you've been dying to add to your list. It can be frustrating
Mhm.
to have it be very difficult to learn new things. So I like this.
Yeah, so a spellcaster you're fighting or your allies with, either way, cast a spell that you were like, ooh, that seems cool.
Wait,
and
hold
it's so in the wizard spell list, you
Yep.
get the opportunity to be like, how did he do that? Okay, I'm going to just only think of that for the rest of the day.
Is that a requirement?
I was gonna say,
I
it
don't know if
doesn't-
it says that.
I don't think it says that, but I don't know if
I
it
would
works.
suggest,
It says
yeah,
what?
on the wizard
It
that
Oh,
It
that
didn't
it's on
have
the
to be a
wizard.
wizard's
Like,
spell.
you can't steal
I
a-
think that's the
I think
intent.
that's intended, yeah.
yeah,
I don't know if
that
they-
should be the intent, because wizards are already the most like I can't remember which D&D creator was asked the question, which is the most overpowered
Yeah.
class combination. and they just said level 20 wizard.
Level 20 wizard.
Because they have access to all of the spells already, basically, and then to give them access to spells that they are intentionally being prohibited from, like cleric spells and things like that would be very overpowered.
Speaking of 20th level wizards, your 20th level ability is degree. At 20th level, you receive a degree. It does nothing.
There you go.
You don't get anything, but you don't need anything. At 20th level as a wizard, you can cast Wish. You're fine. Like,
you can cast Wish 3 levels ago.
Exactly.
Like, you're donezo. That's
but
it.
That just cracked me up
But
the first time I read
you get
it.
a degree. You maybe have paid off your debt. You probably haven't.
You probably have
Put
not.
it up on your wall, and you just go.
You might not have even
Go
passed
together.
all of your finals.
Now
They
you
don't
can
know.
just tell people that you have a bachelor's in fine arts. Yeah.
Bachelor's in the arcane. But yeah, I think that's hilarious.
That
I
is a
laughed so
very
hard
good
the first
joke.
time I read that. And honestly, with a little bit of tweaking to some of these abilities, I would play this class.
Totally.
I would legitimately play it, and I don't think I would change that.
I am sad that there's not a part that says, like, you just always look a little frazzled.
I would like the idea if it said you are always exhausted. You have no levels of exhaustion, but you are always exhausted.
Yeah. Not exhaustion, but you are always
If
exhausted.
anyone asks, you have to say, "Yeah, I'm good."
You cannot make new friends. You have no time.
That's one of the abilities of the class.
But maybe that's one of the drawbacks is it says that, like, aesthetically it's like you have trouble looking put together. You don't always look your best. That could be a problem if you, like, had to go talk to some nobility.
I finished college a couple of weeks ago, and I think I have worn makeup more times in the last 2 weeks than I have in the last 4 years. Like, that is so true.
I would like it if there was an ability that said at 3rd level, your grandmother informs you that she doesn't think that magic is a real career.
I would love if part of this is you get periodic letters from your relatives asking what exactly you plan on doing with this degree,
Mm-hmm.
or asking why
And the
you don't
answer
have a
is-
steady job yet.
Everything.
Yeah. I love this.
I mean, sure.
Family gatherings are very uncomfortable for you.
I mean, this is tough because we are all people that picked majors in the arts.
Mhm.
Yep.
So that's
We
our
feel this.
experience. I think maybe at some point you have an option to change majors and, like, you could pick a different style of magic.
I love that. You can change
That's
majors and
amazing.
you can, like,
Just start shifting into another
shift
class of
into
wizard.
another subclass instead somehow.
So it's like multi-classing, but it's multi-subclassing within
Yeah.
the class. So I was thinking about that earlier because I was saying, when I looked at that, you get a degree at 20th level. I'm like, can you get a degree in illusion and then, like, get something for that? Like,
You might.
Because it's a joke, but, like,
But
is
it's
there an equivalent ability that'd be interesting?
yeah, is there something that we could do
Yeah,
where
yeah, yeah.
you then at maybe at 20th level you get your degree and you pick a different school of magic and you get some perk in
Mhm.
that, which takes away the joke of it not doing anything
Yeah.
for you. But
I mean, if I were to add to this, you know, because sometimes within your subclasses there's different mini paths you could go on, I would give you the option of double majoring, changing majors, or minoring in something.
yes.
I
And-
want one that just says drop out. And then it just says, you stop being an adventurer, you take up the life of a farmer. You leave the party.
Mm-hmm. Well, or I mean, dropout, it says you still gain all of the knowledge and everything you have, you just don't get the degree.
Oh, yeah, you just don't get the
It-
20.
And
It
for
just-
some reason,
that's all it
even though the
does.
degree does nothing,
You
no
cannot
one
get
will.
any jobs.
But no
anymore.
one respects you, and it is more difficult to get jobs.
You have
in-
disadvantage on all charisma checks against everyone for the rest of your life. Because they go, well, do you have a degree? And then you go, I mean, I was gonna get a degree, but... And then it just immediately crashes. Conversation drops.
You lose the respect of your father-in-law if you
Your father-in-law.
don't reach
Even if you're
20th
not
level.
married.
Uh-huh.
There is a father-in-law who
Somewhere.
loses respect for you
So,
somewhere in the game.
All father-in-laws respect you less. Any male figure that has children-in-law does not respect your character until you get the 20th level degree.
Very good. Great. Well, those are the 4 that we've brought today. So we wanted to thank you for listening, travelers. We'll keep searching through these ancient tomes for new homebrews. Comment below if you find anything interesting that you'd like us to review, talk about on the show. Let us know this week what your favorite or most interesting way a DM has dealt with death and resurrection in your campaign has been. Let us know about that. And let us know, I guess, maybe what your degree is in as a struggling student wizard.
Yeah.
See if we can find solidarity.
Yeah. And we did this last time. We want you to know we appreciate every homebrew, and we love all the creativity in these homebrews, and we've enjoyed looking at them. We want you all to know that we're not mad at you for making these homebrews, but we are disappointed. See you next week.
Oh boy.